A Streetcar Named Designer. Chapter 1 of Mice and Fellas. Once upon a time, there was a design office in Rochdale which did timber frame houses. One of the designers, Jamie Greenfern, was busy noggining out when he heard a little voice behind the fax machine. It said, "Help! Help!" Being inquisitive, Jamie went over to find out what all the fuss was about. He noticed quickly that the fax machine was out of toner. It couldn't have been the fax machine that was crying out. After all, it wasn't bought to let out shrill screams. It was bought to make the office feel smarter by jamming interesting facts down their earlobes. When he looked closely, Jamie discovered this was actually a little field mouse that had made a home for itself inside the transition file. Ironically, this was one fact that eluded the fax machine. "I've eaten all the toner," said the mouse. "I had a toner salad earlier while you were farting about at Asda," he continued. Jamie began instinctively by slagging off the mouse. After all, toner isn't cheap. "You cheeky bastard!" he yelled. Other than cheese on toast, no other subject had caused raised voices such as this before. The whole office raised their heads to see what was going on. Before he even knew it, Jamie had opened a public can of worms. Sooner or later, Mr. Roth came striding into the office and sat at his place. He was clearly oblivious as to what was unfolding in front of him. "All right, chaps," he said. "All right, fella," said the mouse. Mr. Roth was clearly stunned by this and began searching the office for what had made that high-pitched squeak of a response. "Was that you, fax machine?" he said. "No, Mr. Roth," said the fax machine. "Right, well, which one of you sods was it then?" The whole office sat in silence before Jamie broke the tension by revealing there was indeed a mouse behind the fax machine. "Fellas, there's a mouse behind the fax machine," he said. "Bollocks," said Mr. Roth in an aggressive tone. Before they knew it, it was lunchtime, and nobody had been able to get anything done all morning due to distraction. "This is as per when that stripper was here," said Mr. Roth. The mouse wasn't around to remember that, but agreed that it was time for him to leave. After all, he did eat all the toner. Before they knew it, Phil Kane came striding into the office to find a group of designers and Mr. Roth stood around the fax machine, arguing with one another. He shouted, "Fellas!" This caught everyone's attention. He continued, "I've just been to the turkey meeting, and it turns out we've got the job. All we need to do to finalise it all is to send this last fax to the company." He held the fax aloft for all to see in a glorious pose. It was an official contract, which for some reason couldn't be handed over at the meeting, or posted, or emailed. It just wasn't the case. They asked specifically for it to be faxed. He strode over to the fax machine to complete the final piece of the turkey mission when he discovered a fatal flaw: the lack of toner. Before they knew it, Ron Woodcock came striding into the design office. "Phil, I hear there's a mouse that's eaten all the toner," he said. "News travels fast in this place," he added. "Me and Paul Marsden read about it on the internet during work hours." At this point, the mouse offered itself to help. "Perhaps I can spew up all the toner I ate back into the fax machine. We'd be able to fax it then." This seemed like an idea that interested all parties. Well, except for the fax machine, however, who was horrified by the idea. The mouse pointed out that everybody would have to tickle him until he vomited in order to make the plan work. The design office got their index fingers ready. Phil Kane placed the contract on the desk and commenced tickling. This took the best part of an hour, and before they knew it, it was 2 p.m. "There's nothing coming out," said Mick Devine. "Let's tickle him harder then," said Jack Connor. So they continued regardless. Before they knew it, and while their backs were turned, the company's arch-nemesis, Dion Hopkins, came striding in and snatched the contract from the desk and took off. The office stopped tickling the mouse immediately and began chasing Dion into the car park. In the car park, a standoff was taking place. Dion had the contract, and all the designers and Mr. Roth surrounded him, ready to pounce. This standoff lasted the best part of an hour, and before they knew it, it was 3:10. To their surprise, a familiar figure came striding out of the Chunders building. It was Dion's apprentice, Chad Potfill. He explained the whole evil plan about how he morphed into a mouse to infiltrate the design office and cause a diversion while Dion strode in to take the contract. Then morphed back again while everybody was in the car park and spent the best part of an hour alone on Panel and Wolf design software. When the office staff remembered what they were doing the best part of an hour ago, they immediately went back inside momentarily to wash their hands. After this, Dion then surrendered the contract and handed it to Phil Kane. "You can have this," he said. "With all Chad's newfound design knowledge, we have everything we need. You haven't seen the last of us." At that point, they strode off into the Distnace, holding hands.